Another Next Fest has come and gone, and while I was planning on making a short video to highlight a couple of demos I have enjoyed, things have spiraled a lot of control as they often do, and here we are. There is a lot to talk about, but before we get into it, I think it's important to say that these are not sorted in any special way, it's just the order I play them in. So if you want to know if a particular game is good or not, you'll have to skip forward to that part. Okay, it's game time. As bleak as their setting, the Old West doesn't normally see a lot of action in games, so when something of the sort is announced, I like to keep it in the corner of my eye in case it's something worthwhile. I'm here to guarantee you that whatever the full game turns out to be, what they have here is already pure gold. Cowboy duels and Mexican standoffs are pretty cool, but boil it down to the basics of a video game and you're only just shooting a gun, really. Do you know what's a pretty good game? Receiver. Make a complete intricate system out of an otherwise common action, such as reloading, and with just that you got yourself a game. If the craze of fidget spinners and other similar gadgets should teach you anything, is that people like to tinker with things. It's satisfying to watch a mechanism do its purpose, even more when you are the one doing it. What if you then apply this to every action and had to individually eject each casing, load the bullets back, close the frame, and pull the hammer for each time you pull the trigger? It might take some time, but it should be easy. But what if you had to do that while you're avoiding getting shot, and while scavenging the surroundings because you ran out of bullets for your current gun, and now you only have bullets for a single action revolver and oh fuck, how do I reload this thing? While initially complicated, the moment when everything clicks into place and you're doing all of that without looking is absolutely fantastic. And the post-battle motions of going through the enemy's weapons to get their ammunition is pretty cathartic. I don't know how far this can carry a game, but with a fantastic presentation akin to a Game Boy Advance game, this has to be one of my most anticipated games. They currently have a Kickstarter going for it, so I can only hope that turns out well. Speaking of highly technical games, Kill Knight straight up fucks, and it fucks hard. No bullshit here, this is an arcade twin-stick shooter where you must survive in an ever-changing, ever-aggressive arena where you must juggle several different mechanics at once, each with its own quirks depending on the loadout you pick at the start. I'm not even going to try to explain how it all works, I just know that active reloading is included, it feels great, and it's the best iteration of the system I have seen until now. As they are quite similar in flow, I'll say that this manages the gameplay balance better than Doom Eternal, where the game wants you to use all of its systems efficiently, but you still have enough leeway to make your own style. I can almost see this as a spin-off of Devil Daggers, where dying is only a matter of time, and any mistake will cost you dearly. But at least here you have difficulty options, so that you can learn the ropes at your own pace. I can't recommend this one enough, and while the full game doesn't come out, I shall enjoy the demo until I can. People that grew up watching Animaniacs and playing Wario Land are now old enough to have started game development, and it shows. Right off the amazing last year where we had Pizza Tower, out comes this smug motherfucker. Look at him. Look at him strut. In this physics-based platformer, you must use Rubato stone to traverse this wacky world in search of old bits of planets that were destroyed from the Milky Way when your colleagues accidentally destroy them in a game of pool. Again, if you love Looney Tunes, specifically Animaniacs, the humor here should be up your alley, as the jokes have the same type of chaotic energy. Add that to the whimsical nature of the gameplay, and you got a pretty good game on your hands. Even more impressive is how the demo manages to cram so much content even after it ends, offering you stuff like unlockable costumes and even a rocket launcher because fuck it, why not? I might be tripping, but this bonus level really looks like a reference to Pulseman, and if I'm right, then the developers are absolutely based. Another one to the wishlist that can't come soon enough. If Cruelty Squad taught us anything, is that it's possible to shitpost so hard that you'll loop around to make a genuine masterpiece. If you have any interest in highly adaptive platformers, and nostalgia for the specific pocket of time that was the internet in the early 2000s, you better buckle up, because this here is the good shit. You play a contract killer that looks like if Gaia Online made a collab with Madness Combat, and you move around using the recoil of your sniper rifle. Yes, if you do a 360 in the air, you can do a slow-mo trick shot, because of course you can. While you're throwing yourself around at high fucking velocity, there isn't a single moment where you're not being flashbanged by some nonsense that you forgot even existed in the first place, like forum banners or those early 3D wallpapers where everything is made out of the shiniest metal. One can say that the game is just an outlet to spout a bunch of references, like how the tutorial is a damn video made with the default template from Windows Movie Maker, pop-punk music and spelling mistakes included. But it goes so hard on all of it that it's hard not to find it charming. Also, a Bionicle reference, so the developer is undoubtedly based. For how ridiculous it all sounds, the game is absolutely fantastic. I honestly thought this was one of those forever projects you see clipped around the internet, but no, this is an actual game. Well, at least a demo of it, because the full game still doesn't have a release date. All of it really needs is more levels, because they absolutely nailed the gameplay, so here's hoping that this comes out in the near future. Love for the genre, or absolute spite to the company that refuses to ever acknowledge it. I don't know which one powered up this developer, but goddamn, this might be the true spiritual sequel to F-Zero we all been waiting for. While the handling might need some time getting used to, especially the drifting, when it all connects, this is some fun that only this type of high speed is able to offer. I have to admit I was never good at F-Zero, so I can't do justice on how fast you can go here, but believe me, you can go pretty fucking fast. You can go so fast that if catching air is too slow for you, just Giga-Drill brake right back into the track to gain an additional boost of speed. Like you really needed to go even faster. The track design shows promise, but I'll need to check the full selection before making my final judgment. We already have the tube track, but I still need the track where you go inside the tube and dodge the moving walls. Oh, and let's not forget about the loops. My only real complaint is that I don't like the character arc, but that is just my personal preference. All the machines look cool, it's just the characters that I despise, but as they have barely any presence in the game, it's something I can safely ignore. I might be reaching, but in case it's an intended call-out with the title, I think this is the first time I ever seen someone mention the N64 hidden gem, Aero Gauge. I fucking love that game, and it's too bad it never got any follow-up. You can even play as an N64 controller, isn't that crazy? I wasn't planning on talking about this one, but seeing how we're on the topic, here's pod racing. The futuristic racing genre is not completely dead, but I always found it weird how everyone gravitates to either F-Zero or Wipeout and nothing else. But after playing this demo, I don't think this will be the one to bring it back, as it ends up being nothing more than a mediocre attempt without any substance to it. What made the original pod racer so good is how you could feel the weight of the vehicles as they swerved smoothly with their anti-gravity engines at ridiculous speeds, while the vehicles here just feel completely weightless, leaving you with some basic handling that feels boring to play. A sentiment that also carries over to the design of the tracks, at least the ones that are available to try in the demo. And not the biggest fan of the art style either, as the gritty realism looks so generic that it might as well be assets pulled directly from the Unreal Engine marketplace. There really isn't a game that ever took full advantage of the iconic Mobius art style, and I think a pod racing game would be the perfect fit for that. But that is besides the point. All I can hope is that they managed to tweak the handling enough for the game to be ultimately fun. But enough with the negativity, as we go back to some good racing. Combat racing to be specific. I'll be honest, I never cared about Twisted Metal, as before I even knew what that was about, I had already played both Carmageddons, and while that doesn't have guns attached to the cars, running over people was just more fun. Well, with the series dead like everything else Sony had its hands on, it's time for indies to pick it back up and make the sequels that they all deserved. It's all about your car here, with no interruptions. As the map is completely open, you are free to choose which objective to chase after. Even if it all happens in a desolate wasteland, deserving of the Mad Max license, the handling feels absolutely fantastic. The way the car rocks around with every bump in the road, while you're still able to maintain total control, is amazing. Especially when you get in the middle of a firefight with several other cars and you're just relentlessly chasing after each other. As for the title, when you die, it seems that you're able to transfer your consciousness to another car through their fumes. I'm not sure about the science behind this one, but I'll allow it. Oh, and to upgrade your car, you roll into the back of a truck like Knight Rider. Fuck, that always has been a cool trope, having a mobile secret base you can just enter at high speed. I don't know if it's just me, but I was having trouble with the camera controls being way too sensitive on the controller, but it only conceded me the forbidden knowledge of the controller and mouse combo. Seriously, more games should have an option for this. It's absolutely a cool way to play. Anyway, this game shows great potential, and ultimately it all rides on how much more content that they managed to cram into the final product, as all it really needs is more variety. Some developers might think they're going retro, but I'll assure you that they'll never go as hard as the guys behind this one. This has to be the strongest GBA game that never was, cause damn. Look at the colors, the thick and easy to see outlines, the small yet extremely detailed level of animation. It's also good to look at, and it's even better to play. While the game is presented in pocket-sized challenges, it's hard to resist its charm. You're this cool mouse and you must use your cool yo-yo to fight your enemies, solve puzzles, and sometimes even both together, while simultaneously using the environment to your advantage. It's also a great demo, as you get 3 separate sections to play through, giving you a taste of what the full game will offer. All of this is extremely well polished, as not only the gameplay, but the visuals and sound are put together to create the highest level of experience that was the trademark of the system. If you love the GBA, or hell, even if you don't, do yourself a favor and keep an eye out for this little mouse. You better love the GBA, by the way. What kind of sicko do you have to be to not love that thing? The fuck are you looking at? Man, I was really looking forward to this one. After Signalis and Crow Country, I felt like the indie horror scene has more than proven itself better than the high-budget titles of nowadays. So it seemed obvious that Hollowbody was set to be the next best thing, but for some reason, I'm not feeling it anymore. The shooting feels alright, but the movement is off. It's hard to explain without playing it for yourself, but I really don't like how it controls. Like you're simultaneously too heavy, but still slipping everywhere. And that is when you're walking, because the running only makes it worse. Of course, it's not all that bad, because if there's something the game does right, are the visuals. It pulls perfectly that energy of a game that started being developed for the PS1, got released for the PS2, and is now being played in an emulator. And it's not just the graphical fidelity that is impressive, but its entire aesthetic composition. Look at this fucking menu. Oh baby, look at that interface. This diegetic integration of a standard system from a fictional future is just a beauty to behold. I still wholeheartedly believe that they can turn this one around for the better, because for the moment, my problems are solely control related. You got something special here, it just needs an extra layer of polish. Gotta be honest here, I saw Taxi in the title and I didn't even look further before grabbing the demo. That's how desperate I am for a Crazy Taxi sequel, and while the new one doesn't arrive, I'll take what I can get. Oh. It's one of those.
Hey, do I know you? Are you the famous taxi driver? Then let's go full throttle!
Okay, that's pretty funny, but I should have looked at what I was getting into from the start. It's all pretty bad, but if anything, the main theme is pretty catchy, so at least they got that right. Well, pretty bare bones, I really like this one, especially the driving physics. The cars have a good weight to them that makes each turn an interesting challenge to overcome. Unfortunately, there is not much insight that I can offer on this one, as I'm not entirely familiar with the genre it's trying to be, and I'm not sure of what are the golden standards for rally games. I guess the camera inside the car could be pointing slightly more to the ground, as while the sky is pretty, I would like to see the road more clearly. Yeah, I'll check this one when it comes out. I was actually looking forward to this one after reading about it recently, but after trying it out, all I was left with was disappointment. To start, while the environment art style is pretty good, the characters are absolutely horrendous, which might be on purpose because honestly, fuck cyclists, but then I'm left with a bunch of creatures that I don't want to take the center of my screen. As for the gameplay, they almost add something here, as going around with a bike feels alright, but as soon as you try to do something more elaborate, the game just falls apart and it turns into a frustrating test of patience. Wall riding and grinding feel especially awful because of the way momentum works and how strongly you magnetize to the object. I know that radical bike riding is not easy to put into a game, but unfortunately, Bombrush Cyberpunk exists and it proved that it can be done, so the developers should really step up to the challenge. I guess I'll check it out when it comes out, and hopefully by that time they worked out all their kinks. In what it might lack in size, it certainly makes up for in quality. With a concept simple enough to use as the title, you really get what it says on the tin. You choose one of the chunky cars, and then go drifting around the tight corners of the racetrack that consists mostly of parking lot. Yeah, blasphemy, I know, but sometimes you also go a little bit on the outside. If that doesn't sound exciting, know that the environment also changes as you go through the track, which is incredible how exactly one game tried that gimmick, and then no one ever did it again. Okay, I was thinking of Split Second, but I just remembered MotorStorm existed, and I only forgot about it because Sony killed it too. As I was saying, the track changes around you, but what is also cool is how the track dividers have physics to them, so you can also affect the surroundings, even if by mistake. There are only 2 tracks to try out right now, but I'll bet that the others will continue with that type of design. Another great feature is how you can choose between graphical presets that cater to specific retro audiences, like those who want the true original experience on the original hardware, or those who prefer to play an enhanced PC version and everything else in between. It's a great way to present that type of choice to the player. This has all the good marks to succeed, so let's hope that this one will come out sooner than later. You know very well why I'm here. Hot goblins aside, it's a cleaning simulator, and I happen to like playing those from time to time. Last one I played was the Final Fantasy DLC for Power Wash Simulator, and I feel like I need to mention it because the fact that it exists is so baffling that if I don't say it out loud, it might eclipse out of existence. There's not much to complain here, as the game is pretty on par with the others in the genre, and only the full game experience might reveal further problems. If anything, the performance could be better. Just throwing ideas here, but considering the title and the types of goblins we have here, would it be that far-fetched if they just released future DLC where you'd have to clean up a sex dungeon? I don't even need to elaborate further, the idea practically sells itself. Just think about it. Oh baby, this is it! A lot of indies try to go for that coveted 90s arcade racing experience, but not many ever reach the podium with just the idea alone. Out comes Victor Hit Rally, and with just a demo, absolutely demolishes the competition. Remember Power-Drift? They certainly remember, and they actually made it good. While the drift system might need some time getting used to, as soon as it clicks, you'll be chaining drift after drift at ridiculous speeds while trying to outsmart the CPU, which is definitely not here to fuck around. Love how you can sometimes crash into your opponents and send them flying, really keeping up with that high-octane energy that the entire game is going for. Plus, besides just racing, you also have other modes that offer a refreshing change of pace, like drifting trials or even slalom, which is an idea never seen used in a car game before. Of course, what couldn't miss is a catchy soundtrack to accompany it, and by sprinkling some recognizable samples throughout, they created an original soundtrack while still calling back to the catchy tunes that Sega was known for. The game is basically perfect. All they really need is to add more tracks and vehicles. Slam dunked right into my wishlist, as I can't wait to put my hands on the full game when it releases later this year. Jumping from one banger to another, I'm gonna lay it straight for you. This game right here, this is what dreams are made of. Imagine being the stupid assholes spending $80 billion trying to make a game, while a couple of fellas ask some nice people for a handful of dollars and use it not just to make a good game, but pure, concentrated art. Oh, the movement, the seamless animation, the fluidity, oh, the momentum. Look at that beautiful wall run. Prince of Persia walked so that this man could run, and run this man did. Listen to this charming nonsense that the characters spout when talking. That's the kind of voice acting I would pay for. Look at that smooth sky gradient. Oh, that's the money shot right there. You know, sky gradients like those go for a premium nowadays. Even the Spyro remake had to throw those away because they didn't have the budget or the courage. How is all of this even possible? I could continue to babble on, but that would be a disservice to the actual game. If the demo is still up while you're watching this, do yourself a favor and go play it. If not, well, grab the main game when you can, because I can safely say that this is going to be a big catch. Just a full-on Symphony of the Night, but in the future. You got your protagonist with a big flowing cloak and accompanying floating sword while you explore your grid-based surroundings and ultimately fight extravagant bosses. But this time, you get a gun. For real, this game is awesome. I didn't know that this is from the same guys that developed that recent Record of Lodoss War game that was also pretty good. But in retrospective, it makes sense. The gameplay has a great feel to it, the music is bopping and the visual quality is top notch. Your ghost sword wife being used not only for combat but also to solve puzzles by bringing back past objects into the future is a pretty cool idea. And it definitely has some potential to provide some absolute keynote moments, so I can only have high hopes for that. Love how the background lights shine on the characters or how the protagonist poses during special moments. I really hope that this level of high quality carries over to the full game, as the demo is really well put together, and despite being short, it still has a fair share of weapons to try out. If I really had to criticize something, it has to be the walking cycle. I know it's hard to beat the classic Alucard strut, but it looks like you should be frolicking in the Alps instead of shooting demons. Static dialogue boxes might be pretty boring, but I could do without them vibrating so much too. I'm definitely keeping an eye out for this one, as it's planned to come out later this year. Not gonna lie, this one is kind of a bummer. They grabbed Mischief Makers and mixed it together with a little bit of Tomba and a little bit of Klonoa, but the resulting combo came out severely lacking. I really don't understand. These had everything to be amazing, but the gameplay feels like it's missing something. I can't say specifically what's wrong with it, but I think that the movement needs more weight, because as it stands, the action is missing the expected impact from its inspirations. As previously mentioned, consider the original Tomba and how controlling the little man was so satisfying, where despite being quite agile, you could still feel the force behind the momentum. My only real problem is gameplay, because everything else is so good. The entire aesthetic is really pleasant to the eye, the music complements nicely with the tropical vibes, and the girls are fucking hot. Seriously, what a feat to being able to translate the charm of the 2D art into the 3D model so perfectly. I still believe they can turn this one around, and they just need to fine-tune what they already have here. It's bloody Contra. No, that's about it. It's Contra, but more violent than usual. The Contra did have some grotesque parts, but those usually exploded into more explosions, while here they don't shy away from blood constantly raining down, sometimes quite literally. While keeping itself simple on the gameplay, it's overall pretty fun, especially when playing together with a buddy. The pixel art is great, and you can even customize your character with several different pieces, which is pretty neat. My only problem is that the stages always seem to go a bit too far. I wouldn't mind if they cut it back and maybe rework those segments into some kind of alternative stage mode. I got really disappointed with the recent Contra, so this one should be good enough to fulfill my Contra needs, or at least until Konami decides to port Hardcore Uprising to the PC. This is a really interesting one. You play as this cute Valkyrie named Roll, and you must reach the top of the tallest tower to stop the island from crashing down to the earth. The problem is that your movement options are severely limited, and this place doesn't much care about accessibility. Absolutely honest here, but I almost got filtered in the beginning because I mistakenly thought the game was bad. But curiosity and the caveats of its gameplay managed to hold me until I figured out what was up. At the beginning, you can barely move around, only equipped with a terrible jump, an awful glide, and then an attack that kills you more times than it should. But after unlocking the slam that allows you to jump higher, everything else started to make sense. Even then, the game is not here to hold your hand, as most of the traversal is done in the most precarious of the situations, in an environment where other platformers would have you completely face through or at least slip. Yes, these flying crumbs are the intended path, we better get used to it. Still, trying to find all the unlockables that exist in the demo while gaining mastery over the controls was pretty enjoyable, but I believe the movement could still be refined further. I always felt unclear if it was possible to chain together certain actions, because you have a limited number of things you can do before having to touch the ground again, and just trying to get some speed to get into gliding would often not work. This has the potential to be a great game, so here's hoping for a good outcome on that. And that's a wrap. Believe me when I say that there were a lot more games that I want to talk about, but it's better if I stop for now. Will all these games be good when they release, or will they even release at all? Who knows? I just know that whatever the case might be, good games will always come out eventually.